Hey guys, welcome back. So recently I've been really big into the asymmetrical horror scene, and about a week ago a game really caught my eye because not only was it in the same genre, but it also followed another game that I was very closely related to or into, and that's Piggy. So this game called Piggy Rush was in development for quite some time, and it was basically a blend between Piggy and Pillar Chase 2, both of which I've covered on this channel. So I thought it would be a really cool idea to actually try this game out when it came out, and sure enough, it's out now. It's been out for a couple days for public testing, and I wanted to give my thoughts on it as a very low stakes, non scripted kind of video. I do have notes that I will be sharing, but for the most part, this is just going to be my own take on the game, the pros, the cons, some suggestions I'll have at the very end, like I do with a lot of my content here, and hopefully, this is a constructive sort of review rather than just a kind of rant about the game. So, I'll start with the pros, and then I will eventually get to the cons, and I will end on the suggestions. I'll try to give timestamps once I'm editing this video, so look in the description for any of those timestamps if you want specifics. First off, I'll start with the pros though, and I do think there's actually quite a few pros this game has that are really, really good. First off, I want to say that the cast of characters for launch is actually quite impressive. So, not only is there a healthy amount of characters, but a lot of them are pretty unique. They have a lot of good designs. So, off the top of my head, sorry if I get these numbers wrong, there's 8 of the monster characters, and I want to say 6 or 7 survivors. I want to say it's 7, but it might be 6. Um, and they're all very unique from one another. Like design wise, I think they're really cool. The Another pro that I had was that the model design is probably the biggest upside to this game. It is on par with Pillar Chase 2. It's very good looking. A lot of the character models are very, very good, and I really like what they did with the modeling. So huge props to them. Also in the skins department as well. I mean, if the character models were good, surely the skins were too. And sure enough, like, I love almost all the skins in the game. Just gonna be honest with you right now. All the skins are really, really good looking. So massive props to the modeling team there. I love what you did. On top of that, the starter characters. So you only get one starter survivor, which is your own avatar, as well as 2 monster characters. All the starting characters are really good. I like the fact that none of them are inherently weak. I will say the Zompiggy character, which, again, sorry, I don't know the name off the top of my head, I just call them Zompiggy. The Zompiggy monster I did notice was a little bit weaker than AI Tigry, who has been my current main for the monster side of things, but they're still good, and Tigry as well is a very good character, so you don't feel like you're incredibly underpowered going into the game. The avatar or main player character survivor is also really good. The dash ability is a very make or break ability, but once you get a couple games in, really good. So I like the fact that you don't feel like you're at a huge disadvantage when you're starting the game. Huge props there. Another good thing I liked, and this is something that was missing from Pillar Chase as well for quite a while, the ability to test characters prior to buying them. There is a whole testing area just dedicated to trying characters out prior to playing them, or learning abilities after you've bought them, rather than just having to blindly go in. I think that's another massive, massive W on their part. I like that because then I'm not wasting money on characters I don't want, or I can wait to get those characters. So, huge props there as well for having those types of characters in the game and having the ability to test those characters before playing them in game. Really, really big upside there. Another pro I had was that the currency is very easy in this game to get. One thing I really dislike about Pillar Chase 2 is that currency in that game is very difficult to obtain. It takes a very long time because of the fact that there's a coin cap per round, which I think is one of the dumbest mechanics Pillar Chase has ever implemented. So the fact that there is no coin cap to this game, and there's also ways to get a lot of money every round, is very, very nice on both sides. I noticed that as the monster, I was getting probably hundreds of coins per round, and on Survivor, if you're doing tasks, it's very easy as well. And there are items in the game that allow you to find where your tasks are, and there's also items that just give you free coins. So currency in this game is very, very easy to get, so it doesn't feel like the grind to get characters and get skins takes a very long time. And I do appreciate that, because that was a huge downside to Pillar Chase, was that progression to get all the characters you want and all the skins you want felt like it took way too long. And that was actually one thing that turned me off from playing Pillar Chase 2 pretty quickly. So, last pro I have is, speaking of progression, the milestones are back. Like Forsaken, this game has milestones for every character. For Survivors, it is every 25 wins, which actually might take longer than you think. And on Killers, it's every 25 levels. Again, I love milestones, and I think most of the milestones in this game also look really, really good. I do think there's better ones than others. I think that for some of the characters, I wish they kind of had a theme going on to them, rather than just random skin per 25 levels or per 25 wins, but not saying it's a horrible ordeal. All the milestones still look absolutely phenomenal, so just another W to the modeling department, honestly. But with that being said, that's going to be all my pros. This is where I get into the cons section, and I will touch a little bit more on the cons just because these will also lead into my suggestions, so I'm going to spend a little bit more time here. First off, the map design is pretty bad. I'm not going to sugarcoat it here. The map design is very one-sided, very poorly designed. So there's only 4 maps in the game right now: Forest, Metro, Sewers, and the Attic. And out of all the maps, I only have fun on one of them, and that's the Forest. I'm gonna be honest with you. The Attic is incredibly Survivor-sided, unless you're playing certain killers, which I will get into this, but certain monsters are also just absurd on certain maps, like Attic. But there's also monsters who just legitimately can't do anything on Attic because of how easy it is to loop, and the door mechanic making it a huge downside for Monster. On the Metro and Sewer map, the Sewer map is just way too big. I do not like the Sewer map for that reason. I have never gotten all my tasks done on that map simply because it is so big and so confusing that it is impossible to actually get all your tasks done. So that makes it really annoying. And then the fact that it's so the layout is awful. It is so confusing to get anywhere on that map. I have had multiple instances where a survivor is on the other side of a dumpster and there's literally nothing I can do to get to them without spending like 20-30 seconds just going all the way around the map. That is not good game design. That is not good map design. So Sewers is awful. On the subject of Metro as well, I actually think it's okay in design, but the insta-kill mechanics, which is both present on Forest and Metro, is awful. Literally just awful. So if you don't know, on the maps, there are mechanics that if they're turned on, so sometimes the maps will have mechanics on, sometimes they'll have them off. When they're turned on, you instantly get killed if you cannot avoid them. And that is a huge downside as a survivor. That is basically just an immediate killer W, because I have seen this so many times where, because of how frequent the events are and how difficult it is to dodge them sometimes, it makes it very, very difficult to do things and actively win as a survivor on those maps. It's not good. It's not good game design. I don't know why they chose to do it. I don't know why they made them so frequent. I mean, an insta-kill mechanic every 10 seconds on Last Man Standing is a horrible idea. And I don't know why they did that. It is a horrible idea. It is not fun to play into. So I really did not like that aspect of the game at all. Next thing is related to the monsters. So like I said, the monsters are very well done in terms of design, in terms of how they look, how they feel. The problem is that how they play is not as good. So, again, there's 8 of them, and half of them are really, really good. I would say half of them have a very cool design and do play well. There are characters that do play well. The problem is that half of them really don't, or they have certain abilities that really don't. For example, a lot of characters have a ability that all it does is give them a boost to their stats. That is it. For example, Tiger has an ability that makes him run much, much faster, and the only downside is that you get put into a cooldown as soon as the mode ends. This cooldown is very difficult to read as a survivor, and the speed boost is something that you cannot deal with as a survivor. You just have to play around it. I don't like that. I don't like that because there is absolutely nothing you can do on the survivor's end to stop that unless you happen to have like a taser. And even then, that is just a massive waste of a taser. So, though that ability alone is already a problem. Piggy has the same type of ability, which just gives them a damage boost and a little bit of a speed boost. It's literally just another generic boost ability. Doggy has another one as well, which gives him damage boost and infinite stamina. And the only way you know this is coming is a very specific voice line that if you haven't heard before or you're in the middle of a chase is very hard to hear. Things like that are just not good game design. I don't like the fact that they're just very generic one-sided boost abilities with very little counterplay. It makes it so that as a survivor, it is very difficult to play around and very unfun to play around. So I don't like that. And on top of that, there is also a lot of abilities that may not be generic boosts, but are still very difficult to play around. A couple examples I have written down here are the giant wall that Doggy has. I just don't, there's nothing you can do to it. Like, you can tase the wall, but again, massive waste of a taser. So otherwise, if this wall is placed in the right position, there's absolutely nothing you can do to get around it. And that is just, again, really bad game design. So I've seen it before in Die of Death. In that game, Artful has a similar mechanic with just a wall, and it is so unfun to play into. So I don't know why this game replicated that, but it's super unfun. I do not like it. It should not be a thing. It really just should not be a thing. Another one is the Ellie stun. She has a stun that literally all you have to do is press a button and it stuns everyone for like 5 seconds or something like that. Or it's like 3 or 5, I don't know. Again, why? It is just such a busted mechanic. Hi, let's just freely stun everyone and get a free hit in. Mind you, she already does a very large chunk of health per hit. So one stun and you're already basically out of half your health. And another mechanic in this game is when you drop enough health, you actually run slower. So the more injured you are, the harder it is to actually get out of that chase. And again, that is just not fun. That is not fun at all. Pillar Chase has a similar mechanic, but the difference is in Pillar Chase, you have to be like 15 or 20 health or under in order for that mechanic to proc. In this game, you don't have to, like, you really only have to be like 60 health or under, which is a lot. That's a lot of health still to already be getting that debuff. And it just sucks. It just isn't fun at all. It really isn't that fun. So, and then one more I had on here as well is there is a character who has pop-ups as a passive, which forces you to unlock your mouse in order to deal with them, which during a chase is abysmal. I hate this. It's not as egregious as like the stun or the boost abilities, but it is still definitely a challenge to play into. Last thing I'm going to say on the cons before I get to my suggestions is the bugs. This game launched with quite a few bugs, and I'm not going to touch on most of them just because of the fact that they are getting patched as we speak. Like, for example, there was one where you could die as a monster, and now I believe has already been patched out of the game. So They are actively working on a lot of these. However, even today, there are still a couple that I have noticed that are genuinely awful to play into. I've had a bug where, and it wasn't just today, it was also yesterday and the day before that, where so I had one bug where I was the monster 5 times in a row, right? Like every single time, I was always the monster. There was nothing I could do about it. Then, in the very next patch that they released, I never got monster all of a sudden. So it went from I could only play monster to everybody else could play monster, and I was never able to play monster unless someone picked me in the double trouble setting. That was the only way I could get monster. So I got both extremes, and neither of them are really fun, like at all. I like being able to play both sides, so when there's a bug that completely prevents me from playing one side of the game, it just sucks, like a lot. So I'm really hoping that one gets patched soon because it's not fun. And I'm hoping I'm the only one experiencing that, because if someone else is experiencing that, I feel so sorry for them because it's not fun. The other one I noticed that was pretty bad is that sometimes chase music will just straight up cut during a chase, which makes it very hard to understand when you're actually out of a chase. So when I like, wow, that was bad. The most prevalent occasion I've noticed this is in the attic map. For some reason, when you go around a corner or two, the chase music will just suddenly cut, despite the fact that the monster is still like right after you. So I don't know what qualifies as being out of chase, but evidently being around a couple corners is enough for that. So that can be really distracting or really detrimental at times, because you think you're out of a chase and then all of a sudden you're not. So I don't know if that's a bug or just how a chase setting is coded in the game, but it is definitely something that could probably be tweaked a little bit. Those are all my cons. This is where I'm going to get into my suggestions, and I've boiled it down to just 4 quick suggestions, things that hopefully are constructive criticisms, I would say, and I'll try to go through these pretty quick. Number 1, cut the sewer map in half. Just cut it in half. It is basically the same map on both halves, and I think it would be a lot more beneficial to just have one half of the map only. There's no reason for it to be that big. There's no reason for it to be that confusing. So reworking sewers to only be one half of that map, I think would be a lot better. And then just make it less confusing. Make it so that it's not a actual pain in the butt on both sides. Number 2, limit the amount of map events that can proc per round, or bring at least some awareness to what is happening. Because, for example, the trains on Metro being an insta-kill mechanic is very annoying. And when you're in the middle of running between areas and suddenly the train goes off, that is real. Like, there's nothing you can do besides pray as you're running that you get there in time. Same with like the power cuts on attic. They are far too frequent, so limiting the map events would definitely be beneficial for this game, so it doesn't feel like it is just a constant threat to you. Whereas as the monster, if you get hit by a train, you get stunned for a little bit, and that's honestly it, so it's not that big of a deal. Third thing I have is just down the line, I think a lot of abilities need to be reworked. Less generic boost abilities, please. We don't need that. They're not fun, they're not interesting, there's no counterplay to them. Please stop. Just get rid of them. I think like one character having one is fine, right? I would say like out of all the characters, I think like Piggy would probably be the best for this, because that character definitely needs something like that. But all the other boost abilities that just, you know, give you a little bit of stam or give you a little bit of damage or give you a little bit of speed just need to go. They need to be something else. They need to be reworked. They need to be out of the game because they're not fun. So making abilities less frustrating and more unique is definitely something that needs to be in the game. And on that subject as well, again, things like the giant wall just need to have counterplay, or like the stun. Like, there needs to be something that survivors can do to avoid those abilities outside of just like, oh, here's a giant wall, run the other way, because you can't do that. You know, if you're in the middle of a chase and suddenly a giant wall is in your face, there's not a lot you can do about that. So I would prefer to have a different ability there or some counterplay to that. And then the last suggestion was honestly just bug fixes. Just keep up with the bug fixes. Try and get through them as best as you can, because there's still a couple that are definitely detrimental to the player experience right now. So if those could be removed as well, that would be very helpful. But that's all I have for suggestions. Hopefully down the line a lot of these can be fixed and improved upon, but we'll see. I'm definitely going to keep my eye on this game because compared to a lot of other games out there, this is a very good one. There's a lot of polish, there's a lot of good things to be said here, so, sorry, really hoping that this game can at least take off. I really want this game to take off because I do think there's a lot of potential here, and I've had my eye on this game for a while. I just haven't seen enough to make it as good as I know it can be. So we'll see though. Hopefully the devs can see these suggestions or just act upon these suggestions. So we'll see though, we'll see. So hopefully this has been a good review and good constructive criticism on the game. Again, I try to make it very mellow, very like non-scripted, not like flashy every 4 seconds, something that's just mellow, interesting, and a general review of the game, so that if you want to try it out, you can. I'll leave the game's link in the description as well, that way you can try it out for yourself while it is in testing and give your own thoughts and opinions on the game, because I do think that you should. Please don't take my word for granted. Please don't take my word as gospel. Please go play the game for yourself. Try it out. While I did have a lot more feelings early on, I do think that now that I've had a chance to sit on them, I do think this is a game that someone should try at least once, or hear someone try at least once and make your own opinions on them. So hopefully you guys like this. If you did, I'll try to do more content on the game, and I hope I'll be able to see y'all later. See ya.